With a Game 2 loss from the Toronto Blue Jays, it makes this Game 3 that much more important.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well, on our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You guys have been killing it lately, and it's a ton appreciated, more than you guys could know. It is free. You might as well do it. You get your shorts, your podcasts, your live streams, your videos, the whole ordeal. And a special one coming next weekend, actually. It'll be a weekend sort of special episode for you guys. And I think we're going to start doing some like more exclusive special bonus stuff here and there on the weekends. So next weekend, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, there will be a special episode up there for you guys. Lot to get into today. It was an absolute pitching showdown. So we got to talk about that. The Blue Jays getting outplayed, losing Game 2 4-1. But I think there's definitely quite a bit to take away from this one, Carter. I guess we'll start here. The Blue Jays 1-1 in this series, need to find a way to win Game 3. I guess confidence level right now.
Yeah, this was a stinker for the Toronto Blue Jays. So, it's one of those things that happens to every single baseball team. Like, you're not going to have your best effort every single game. And you look at who you were facing. Cade Horton's been absolutely disgusting recently. And again, I don't like at this point in the year, you're going to have to face good pitching in the playoffs. So I don't love tipping your cap to a lot of these guys. But like the run this Cade Horton was on was absolutely insane. He was on a 29 straight scoreless run. So he has 29 straight innings of scoreless baseball. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. does break that up for him, but just ridiculous numbers. I'm trying to find my notes where they are in my notes here. Eventually I will get there. But yeah, like you would just tell with like the fastball, he has almost like a Trey Savage delivery. It's very over the top. Very like a 90-degree. Like he is really coming from that over-the-top arm slot, which allows for his changeup to break a ton. That curveball breaks a lot as well. He's getting the swing and miss at the bottom of the zone. Just a guy that looks really, really good. A guy that was drafted in 2022. The upside is there, and it's just making hitters look silly for the last few outings here. Like he played the Red Sox, the White Sox, the Orioles, and the Reds. That was part of his scoreless run as well. And then, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is able to break it up for him, but he had a no-hitter carried into the sixth inning. Andres Gimenez is able to break that up. Just an unbelievable pitching performance, and the Chicago Cubs clearly got a good one in Cade Horton over there.
Yeah, and just something that I want to touch on when it comes to him, it's sort of a short arm delivery. He's not getting that full extension back, and I think that really throws off hitters as well. And it's something I picked up on. I was watching a little bit of the start of the game without the sound on the broadcast because I was at work, and that's the first thing I noticed. And sure enough, as soon as I turn it on, that's what Dan and Buck are talking about is the short arm delivery. And you know what? It's one of those things as hitters when you're so used to seeing one type of thing and something is very different and a little bit off in a pitcher's release, it can throw you off. I don't know that I'm putting this entire game on, it's a weird arm slot. No, you can't. You got to find ways to get hits. You got to find ways to generate runs, but it definitely goes into it. I mean, again, I don't think it's just the pitching. This Chicago Cubs team finds ways to hit the long ball. They are, I think it's sixth in the league in home runs as of right now. It might honestly be more than that now. They might be higher because of the amount of home runs they hit in this game. And it's just they're not, 3-run shots, 2-run shots. There's a couple solos, but a couple of those will hurt you. But overall, I mean, I don't think it was a bad game from Kevin Gosman. He gives you 7 innings. It was like I said at the beginning of this episode, a pitching duel. And you just happened to lose that because the Cubs hitters were able to get a little bit more on Gosman than the Jays were on Horton.
Yeah, if you're going to blame any facet of the Toronto Blue Jays game or team for this game, it is going to be the offense. I mean, I'm not going to blame the offense and say that they're horrible, obviously, because the offense has been really good for an extended period of time. So these games do happen. So again, I think this is one of those instances where you kind of have to give a hat tip to Cade Horton, just the complete opposite of what happened really in game one. The Toronto Blue Jays get 4 base runners this entire baseball game. Bo Bichette is a guy that draws 2 walks. Like, if you're going to assume anyone's getting 2 walks, wouldn't necessarily be Bo Bichette as the first choice, but Bo Bichette draws 2 walks. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. obviously with the only RBI hit in the game, and RBI double down the line. Andres Menes with a single as well. Just one thing I do want to talk about with Bo Bichette, actually, before I get into the other thing I wanted to go into, a bunch of stuff we're obviously going to talk about in this podcast, is just the need for George Springer, I think, in the 2 spot. And one thing with Bo Bichette being in the 2 spot is I love Bo Bichette, obviously, at the top of the order because he is such a prolific hitter. It's not the worst thing to have this guy get multiple at-bats, get some of the most at-bats on the Toronto Blue Jays. But we saw it on the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. double, and we kind of saw it go through this offseason. As Bo Bichette put on a little bit of weight, which is not a problem at all, but it's kind of impacted his sprint speed a little bit. And you definitely notice it on that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. double. George Springer scoring there every single day of the week. He's making that a 2-2 baseball game. Bo Bichette, kind of hauling around the bases, doing the best he can, obviously. Not the fastest guy out there. But I love Bo Bichette kind of in that 4 hole just because, again, he can come in there with runners on in the Aston Barger spot where he saw time and time again in this game where he came up with tons of runners on. And then you have George Springer in that 2 hole when he comes back. Just has a little bit more speed, is able to go first to third, is on a single, is able to go first to home on a double. Bo Bichette, the only gripe I can really have with him this season is that you don't necessarily possess the speed that I'd like to see traditionally in a 2-hole hitter. But again, we're kind of just picking at straws in this game. I think, again, I'm not as mad about that play. And I'm not really mad about it at all. You can't be mad about a player's speed. It's just a little unfortunate. But I don't even think I'm talking about this play if, the Toronto Blue Jays get more than 4 base runners in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Carter, you brought up George Springer. I don't know, not really breaking news at this point. George Springer has cleared the concussion protocol. He's going to play with Buffalo the day you guys are watching this. We are recording, obviously, late at night, and he will play in Buffalo. So that's big. You're starting to see the point where George Springer's set to return, which is fantastic because, man, I was getting a little bit worried. This might be the longest concussion protocol I've seen in a long time. And don't get me wrong, a fastball to the skull will do that to you. But still, it was a little concerning. I was starting to be worried because really there wasn't a whole lot that was coming out in regards to George Springer and this injury from when he got domed.
It sucks when you got a team that's last in your division and they throw out Case Stroud, who's not the most prolific reliever of all time, obviously. It was not on purpose, but what a bum. I mean, just kind of, hit George Springer at the worst time because this guy was absolutely on fire. You can definitely notice, while the offense is still hitting and a lot of guys are contributing, not having George Springer in this lineup, you can see that there's definitely something missing. You're kind of missing a little bit of that pop throughout the lineup. That guy that is going to wreak havoc on the base paths, just, be an offensive player, as they like to use on the broadcast. And John Schneider likes to use that terminology as well. And we missed that offensive player for a pretty good amount of time here. Like you said, a little bit longer of a concussion protocol than we've been accustomed to. It's just all the head injuries that we've seen. I mean, Alejandro Kirk almost gets hit in the head again with the foul tip. It just seems like, I don't know what kind of bad juju the Toronto Blue Jays have right now behind the plate, whether it's Tyler Heineman or Alejandro Kirk or whether it's George Springer at the plate, I guess. But we got to stop headhunting, these Toronto Blue Jays players. We need these guys down the stretch. We obviously need them, not to have CTE before the start of the 2025 playoffs. But yeah, George Springer is coming back. You absolutely love to see that. He is playing in Buffalo today, the day this podcast is being put out to you guys. So we should have George Springer back probably by the Rangers series is what I would assume. Got to get a couple starts in Buffalo, but the sooner the better when George Springer does return and join this team. But the other thing that I was going to go into, again, a little bit all over the place to start the podcast, that's typical here on Locked On Blue Jays, but just going back to Kevin Gosman. Kevin Gosman, the entire season, has thrown a lot of first pitch strikes. He has been aggressive early on. We talked about advantage counts. We talked about the importance of advantage counts, especially when you are Kevin Gosman and you do have that splitter. You want to get people chasing on it. And if you get in an 0-2 count, a lot more hitters are they're defending. They're on defense and they're not trying to strike out, obviously, and they're just defending the plate. So if there's a closer pitch, if there's a pitch maybe, just outside the block and I think it could be a strike, they're more likely to swing. That's going to benefit Kevin Gosman, especially with that splitter. But Cubs hitters obviously knew that Kevin Gosman was in the strike zone very often. The second highest first pitch strike rate in the major leagues at 68%. But you could tell the Chicago Cubs were ready for him to be in the strike zone on that first pitch. As you saw it time and time again, hitters making really good contact kind of throughout the game. Not much you really see from Kevin Gosman. A lot of hard contact, not the most amount of damage. So that's obviously very good. Like 7 innings and 2 earned runs is not something I'm going to scoff at. But I would have liked to see a little bit more swing and miss here from Kevin Gosman. But in these instances, when the other team is aggressive, it doesn't go bad. Like the score sheet's going to look pretty good. And that's how you saw Kevin Gosman be very efficient today. I think there was like a 3-inning stretch in a row. It might have been third, fourth, and fifth inning where the first pitch in that inning was an out right away for Kevin Gosman. So it's nice to see, obviously, with the efficiency. But there was a lot of hard hit balls. I know the Cubs offense is good. Hasn't necessarily been that good since the All-Star break. But this season overall, they have been very good. But there was a little bit, not a ton, but just a little bit of cause of concern for me in that outing, especially with the fastball being a little bit down for a season average.
Yeah, well, and I mean, really, he only gives up 3 hits. Like, it's not the end of the world, but you're right. It's the swing and miss and the strikeout ball game that we're used to seeing from Kevin Gosman. And to only get 3 punchies in 7 innings is very unlike him. But so obviously the Cubs game planned them well. I did want to talk about one reason, sort of why the Cubs offense really hasn't been as explosive. And I did want to tee up a little bit on Alek Manoah here and sort of what's going on with him. I'll do that all in the second segment, Carter. But do you have anything on Kevin Gosman specifically that you wanted to also say before we sort of break down the rest of what happened?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not the traditional start from Kevin Gosman. As he said, 3 strikeouts, didn't gather the most swing and miss. But at the end of the day, I don't care if you have 10 strikeouts or 1 strikeout. If you're going to go 7 innings of 2-run ball, like I'm going to take that every single day of the week. So yeah, just unfortunate that we kind of reverted back to a little bit of 2023 here where you had, that just vintage Gosman start. Gave you a really good outing, but the Toronto Blue Jays just unable to really muster anything, whether it's against Cade Horton or the Chicago Cubs bullpen. So again, I'm not like mad about this game whatsoever, but I do understand at this point, being a year and a half into the podcast, being a baseball fan pretty much my entire life, that, hey, like you're not going to win every single baseball game. And if they win the game tomorrow or today, as this podcast comes out, like you're going to be in a pretty good spot beating one of the better teams in the NL.
Oh, yeah. I that's exactly sort of how I felt with this one. It wasn't the end of the world loss. It didn't feel like it just felt like, hey, these guys didn't have it tonight. And that does happen in a season of 162 games. So, yeah, no, and I can understand why people would be frustrated. Hey, this offense didn't do a whole lot. You're right. But I don't know, Carter, for me personally, do you go to work every day at 100%, playing your best? No. I go to work some days on 20% and just dragging my corpse to work. That's
also the 4 teams before the Jays had no luck either. At least the Jays got a run and ended the scoreless streak that Cade Horton had. Like he's been one of the best pitchers since the All-Star break, and even a little bit before that as well. So again, it's not like they got absolutely torched up by like Patrick Corbin or like Tanner Roark. They used to pitch for the Toronto Blue Jays or something like that. No, they got diced up by a pretty good pitcher. But again, when you get to the playoffs, you're going to be facing that really good pitching. So, there's a little bit of give and take with that. But, here in mid-August, you're still sitting at first in the American League. Like, I'm not going to get overly mad about losses like this, especially when you do have a chance, like I said, to win a series against a good team in the NL. But like you said, a ton that we still want to get into, some more game stuff, the bullpen, how that kind of went in this game, even though there was only 2 innings of it, still have some stuff to talk about. And then you have some updates on Alek Manoah and just the Buffalo Bisons there in AAA. Ton more we want to get into, and we'll dive into it after this short break. Today's episode is sponsored by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you into the driver's seat. It's like having your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending on one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. Again, I always talk about this when I do this ad because I had such a bad spending problem on fast food, especially, being a teenager, moving out into the big city, having access to a bunch of food and just options that I didn't necessarily have before, especially late at night. It was very easy to get late night snacking. But with Monarch Money, I realized, holy crap, I'm spending way more money than I want to on fast food, on takeout. So I was able to budget way more accordingly in the future, thanks to Monarch Money. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money, and you can use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
So, Carter, just continuing on, I did want to get into a little bit why this Cubs offense really hasn't been cooking as of late. And that's because star player Pete Crow Armstrong not having a good stretch, Carter. He is 1 for 20 in his last 5 games. He has 1 hit in 20 at-bats. It is just not what you need to see. And the Cubs still came out with 2 of 5 victories in their last 5, but Pete Crow Armstrong just has not really been a part of it. And so you're hoping that this Toronto Blue Jays team can take advantage when one of their best players isn't playing up to par. Hopefully they can take advantage and hop on this team in Game 3.
There's a bunch of guys in this lineup that just really have not been good since the All-Star break. Really, other than I think Matt Shaw and then Michael Busch, as we saw in this game, 2 guys that hit the home runs. So who would have thought those guys were playing pretty good baseball? But Seiya Suzuki has not been good since the All-Star break. Kyle Tucker, especially for Kyle Tucker, has not been that good. So you're getting the Chicago Cubs at a relatively good time, especially from the offensive side of the ball. Like, you are facing some of their better pitching, so that's not as ideal. But we kind of knew what we were getting into in the second 2 games of the series. You had Kay Horton, and then you have Matthew Boyd as well, who has been very good in his age 34 season, ex-Blue Jay as well. So a little bit of familiarity there. But these are the teams that you got to take advantage of, especially when they're scuffling. They did it against the Mariners. They did it against the Padres when the Padres did not have, even a shot at hitting a baseball at the plate and when they rolled into town. But these are the series that you got to take advantage of, even though it is an NL team. You got to beat the good teams, and when teams and fans, especially around the league, look at your baseball team, again, this is more so for us, just, because we have a little bit more ammo to, fire at the Twitter haters and just the Blue Jays haters that still are obviously all around the major leagues. But when you look at that wins against 500 or above teams, Blue Jays are 3rd in baseball at that right now. So that is definitely a good stat to have, because who's going to be making the playoffs? The teams that are above 500. So you want to be good against those competitive teams. And again, it's just, you want to kind of continue to play that playoff baseball, have these playoff atmospheres, especially against the teams that are still battling for whether it's, an NL win or it's the division win. The Toronto Blue Jays obviously in the same position as well. So when they're playing teams above 500, those are the games I'm going to be looking at with more of an eyeglass or more of, with my binoculars out, compared to, if there's a twin series coming up or like the Marlins coming up. You got to win against the playoff teams, because you're going to be playing the playoff teams in a month or so.
That's exactly what it is. And we've had this conversation before. You can't look at a series against the Rockies and be like, oh, well, this is how this team should be playing in the playoffs. Well, no, because the Rockies aren't a playoff team. You have to look at the series against the Dodgers. You have to look at a series against, whoever it may be, the Red Sox or the Cubs or whatever. Pick a team.
The Brewers are coming up. You got the Rangers coming up.
Yeah.
A ton of teams that are going to be, battling down the stretch. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter who it is. It's just like the caliber of competition that you will see down the stretch. I just wanted to give, I was going to cover this off the top of the episode, but again, typical, we kind of, passed over it. Miguel Amaya had a very unfortunate play, went down with an injury that did not look good whatsoever. It looked like a hyperextension of a knee, maybe an ACL issue, which is never good. So prayers up to him. His first day back off the IL as well. So very unfortunate. We kind of know how that is with Andrus, as we've seen this year, Dalton Varsho, a lot of these guys that have been battling back or trying to battle back all year, and then they go down once again. It's definitely a little bit more heart-wrenching, especially when you see the story behind Miguel Amaya.
Oh, God, man. That was just a play that was hard to watch, especially when they slowed it down on the replay and you can just see his knee jam. And, me and you playing ball our lives, we've seen some bad injuries. And one of our buddies actually were playing slow pitch a couple of years ago. And you could hear from the dugout when he tore his MCL and his whatever the other one is. And you heard him snap. Like, you could hear from the dugout. So there are some injuries that are just a little bit bigger. And you saw some players go down to a knee, some of the Blue Jays players, because they saw how bad that was. And it's not like it's getting hit in the head, but it's the story behind it. You're right. The first day back, you're hoping, as a player, you're hoping to get back into a groove, and something like that happens. That is devastating. And that's one of those that you take a step back from baseball and you're just like, because if that was one of your guys, you'd be having the same feelings probably.
Yeah, nobody ever wants to see it. Injuries are the worst part about sports, but they are obviously a part of the game. But yeah, prayers up to him. Hopefully, does have a speedy recovery. But I just kind of wanted to go into Braden Fisher before we kind of go into the Buffalo situation and what's going on down there. Great time to be a Buffalo Bisons fan with the rotation that they're rolling out over the next couple of days. So that's something to look out for if you do live down near Buffalo. But Braden Fisher, a guy that has been obviously very good up to this point in the season, getting a lot more trust from John Schneider, especially recently, being a part of more high leverage scenarios. This one didn't really go his way whatsoever. What were you kind of seeing from Braden Fisher? And do you think this will impact his confidence and extension that will this affect John Schneider's confidence in Braden Fisher rolling him out into these high leverage situations?
No, no, I don't think so. And his confidence, I would hope not. You've seen what you've been able to do all season long. You're not going to let an outing or whatever, for some guys, if it's 2 outings, 3 outings, you're not going to let that affect you. And will it? I mean, yes, probably you're going to feel something. You're going to, next time you're on the mound, you're going to want to, maybe give it a little bit extra. But I think you have to dial yourself back in and just stick to what you've been doing all season. So I really, really hope not for him. I don't think it will. I think what we've seen up to this point all season, I think is what he's going to deliver on. And just like we say with the offense or the pitching or the starters, one bad outing isn't how we judge you. It's how then you bounce back in your next one and the one following that. So I think if Braden Fisher then goes out and doesn't have his best stuff in the following game or the next following game after that, then maybe you have a little bit of questions. Is this guy a player that you want to have around in the postseason where you might need him on back-to-back days, or you might need him to redial it in for that next game? If he can't do that and isn't able to do that, then maybe that's a bigger conversation. But as of right now, I have no problem with Braden Fisher. You've seen how good he's been.
Yeah, I have no problem with him as well. But the only issue that I have is it's not as much with Braden Fisher. It's just if he does want to continue to pitch in these high leverage situations. We've talked about the closing rule a lot recently. I'm not saying Braden Fisher should close, but I have been saying that he's in our circle of trust along with like 6 other guys. And that's the thing. A lot of these bullpen guys are fairly interchangeable. They're going to do relatively similar stuff. They've provided similar numbers, and they've thrown in similar leverages as well. So the only thing with Braden Fisher, if he wants to continue to pitch in high leverage, it's almost like a little audition going on right now for the playoffs. Same thing with the starting rotation. A lot of these guys, we talked about who's going to be starting in our playoff rotation. When you look at, social media and what fans around the Toronto Blue Jays think the playoff rotation is going to be, there's a ton of different things and a ton of different combinations that we've already seen. So it's kind of the same idea in the bullpen. Braden Fisher obviously will be on the playoff roster. I think that's the most guaranteed thing of all time. But what kind of leverage will he be in? I think a lot of the rest of the season will have to go and show that. But in this game specifically, it's with pretty much every single reliever on the Toronto Blue Jays, and a lot of it with Major League Baseball, is that when you don't have your command and you're struggling to find the strike zone, it's not necessarily going to go that well for you once again. Through 18 pitches, only 8 of them were strikes. Kind of dialed it back in the last 2 hitters, struck out Kyle Tucker, and then I think it was Seiya Suzuki that was behind him. Actually, no, he hit the single. Whoever the number 4 hitter was, can't necessarily remember who it is right now, besides the point. But he is able to dial it in, kind of get that strikeout stuff back, find the strike zone in the command a little bit. So, yeah, overwhelmingly not that worried about Braden Fisher. Obviously, he's been very good this season. But, again, if you want to be that guy that you're going to rely on in a big moment, these are your auditions, and these are the times that you continue to provide that trust and build that trust with your manager. But one last thing I want to go into before I send it over to you with the Buffalo Bison stuff is when you're looking around just the American League right now and some of the scores around the MLB. I want to try to keep throwing these into the episodes, especially with, the scoreboard watching that we're all going to be doing down the stretch. The Boston Red Sox have lost to the Houston Astros. I believe that they were playing because I know the Astros won. So that was one of the games that you're obviously looking at. So no games lost in the AL East at least. And then I'm looking at the Twins and Yankees score right now, and the Twins are up 4-1 in the top of the 9th, and they have the bases loaded. So hopefully that can, continue to pour on the Yankees' downfall, because I've been absolutely here for that. So hopefully they don't lose any ground in the American League East, but the Tigers and the Astros both have won. So they are only half a game up now on the American League, but still obviously a very good spot to be in. And that's why I'm not going to get mad, especially when you look around the AL East. Other teams are losing as well. So not the worst time. Again, if you're going to drop a game, it's going to happen. It happens around the league, and that's what we're seeing in this in today's games of baseball.
Yeah, and just tough one in that Tigers game. The White Sox put up no runs, so it was a 1-0 ball game. 2 runs from the White Sox would have helped the Blue Jays out a lot, but No dice, no dice. Carter, I did want to talk a little bit about Alek Manoah. I just want to give a little bit of an update on how he's doing. So his first AAA rehab start lasted just 1 2/3 innings after his pitch count climbed quickly. This is right from Keegan Matheson. In the second, he allowed 3 runs, walked 3 batters, and peaked at 92 miles an hour. And this is also something Keegan Matheson says, this is really about building for 2026 at this point, so Manoah will keep grinding in AAA. And I think that's where we sort of all expected. I think you hoped in your head that Alek Manoah was going to come back with an absolute vengeance. But I think that was never really in the cards. And can it happen? Absolutely. But at this point, with the amount of pitches he's throwing, with how this outing went, I think you're looking at still a little while for a timetable for his return to the big leagues. And I think, Carter, it's probably not going to happen, especially with the amount of arms that this team has right now. I just think Alek Manoah's return to the MLB will be pushed to 2026.
No, and we talked about this before, just looking at the depth you have in your starting rotation. Would you rather go with a guy that's coming off of Tommy John and hasn't pitched in the major leagues up to this point, or guys that you have seen, give you competitive outings time and time and time again? With Shane Bieber coming back, I think that kind of, checked off that box. Me and Skylar Peters is going to join us on tomorrow's episode, and we are going to talk about the starting rotation. He wants to talk about whether the Blue Jays are going to roll out that 6-man rotation once Bieber comes back. Are they going to move somebody to the bullpen? Who is going to be moved to the bullpen if that's what they do decide? And then also, he's a big Trey Savage guy, so he wants to kind of talk about the significance and the meaning behind Trey Savage being promoted to the Buffalo Bisons. But with Alek Manoah, I'll kind of keep it short and sweet, because we'll talk about him a little bit on tomorrow's episode as well, and really focus on him there. But with all the depth that you have right now in your starting rotation, there's just no need to rush Alek Manoah back. Alek Manoah was only really being talked about with us because we didn't really think Eric Lauer was going to be an option down the stretch. Didn't think Max Scherzer was going to be that significant of an option down the stretch. Now the tables have kind of turned, and you do have some starting pitching depth. So again, with Alek Manoah, if he can, figure it out in the next month, which is a big if, obviously, and be productive, you've seen with that Trey Savage move that, they're not really having the safety net anymore. So if Alek Manoah is going to be better than the next guy up, and he's going to give the Blue Jays a better chance to give scoreless outings, they're going to pitch Alek Manoah, but he is pretty far away from what we've seen, especially when he was at his peak here with the Toronto Blue Jays. Kind of unfair to expect him to return to his peak in a very short amount of time after returning from Tommy John. But I mean, what a time to be a Buffalo Bisons fan right now. Besides the Alek Manoah stuff, you saw him on Wednesday, obviously. As we're recording this podcast, you guys will listen to this on Thursday, and that means Trey Savage is making his first start with the Buffalo Bisons. And then Friday, to round out the 3-game stretch, you got Shane Bieber rolling out on the mound. So, I mean, if you're a Buffalo Bisons fan, you really follow along with that. I really only follow along the rehabbing stuff. And then if there's, going to be watching Trey Savage, see how he's doing down there. But if you're, a diehard Buffalo Bisons fan, you're probably absolutely loving life right now. What a 3-game stretch that you have on the starting on the starting mound for the starting rotation.
Yeah, dude, it would be a ton of fun. Imagine being down there for like a game set with Manoah, Trey Savage, and Shane Bieber. I mean, holy smokes. And you got George Springer into a game too.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're just getting treated all over the ballpark. It would be really fun. But Carter, we do have a final game to tee up. I don't know if it's a must win, but man, it is a big one against another playoff team. We'll be right back after this short break. So, dude, game 3, this is the one that I didn't have a ton of hope for. You did a little switch up. You said game 2 was going to be tough, and man, was it ever. I think game 3 is going to be tough as well, but you do face a lefty, so it should give the Blue Jays an opportunity with a lot of their lefty hitting ability to hopefully put a dagger in game 3.
Yeah, I think I let the high of game 1 kind of get to me. When I did this prediction initially, I did have the Jays losing the Cade Horton start because I saw how effective he was. But then, he's got to ride the vibes. I always want the Chase to win, obviously. So it's pretty easy for me to, switch my opinion every single time when we're going that way. Yeah, definitely did not go how the Blue Jays wanted. But you have a pretty good pitching matchup as well. I think the best pitching matchup of this series for this third game, you got Matthew Boyd from the Chicago Cubs, who has 4.5 ERA on the year, 121 strikeouts. And you got Max Scherzer, obviously on the bump for the Toronto Blue Jays, has been very good in his last 4 appearances, but still boats a 4.21 ERA on the year, 49 strikeouts. I'm excited for this one. I don't think you could say that any game against the NL team is definitely a must win. Maybe if you're getting like swept and it's,
Yeah.
down the stretch, you could say that. But I think, with a series in August where it's a series win or a series loss against a good NL team, I'm not going to necessarily say that's a must win, but it's obviously important, right? You want to be competitive against these good teams because, there is a world. I'm not sure how likely it is necessarily, but it could be a Chicago Cubs and Blue Jays World Series. That is, in the possibilities. I know somebody commented that in our comment section. I know it wasn't received the greatest. I don't think not a lot of people agreed with them. But again, like if you don't have a World Series scenario with the Dodgers in it right now, or like the Astros, maybe, like a lot of people are probably going to say you're an absolute idiot. That's the fun of baseball. That's the fun of this time, is that literally anything can happen. And that's why you just got to make it to the dance. The Toronto Blue Jays are doing a pretty good job at accomplishing that goal, at least.
Yeah, I had a coworker come up to me today, and we were just talking ball, as we do. A lot of baseball fans, and a lot of a mixed bag of baseball fans at my work. We got an Astros fan, we got a Cubs fan, we got a Padres fan, and me, obviously, a Blue Jays fan. And I think there's a Phillies fan in there as well. And the Padres fan came up to me today, Greg Mackling, and he said, "Wouldn't it be something for a Blue Jays Padres World Series?" And I was like, please knock on wood right now. It would definitely be interesting. I'm down for any World Series with the Blue Jays in it. I don't care who the opponent is. But at this point, Carter, you're right. I don't think it's quite a must win, like I said before, but I think it is a momentum game. You need, I think, the momentum you would gain from winning this series and moving on, I think, is very important. I always say the first and the third game of every series are the important ones. It's the momentum gainers. It's the keep the momentum alive from the other series or bring momentum into the next. And that is super, super important. So I'm looking forward. Max Scherzer, I just love watching this guy on the bump, especially when he is being successful. And so I think that's my main point here, is to see if Max Scherzer can keep going and keep his momentum rolling.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch. Honestly, like everyone really in the starting rotation, but specifically Max Scherzer. Yeah, it's, I love seeing a lunatic on the mound. Same idea with Yari Rodriguez. When you see them absolutely dialed in, the bug guys out there, it just absolutely fires me up. I mean, how can you not be excited to watch a future Hall of Famer pitch for your baseball team, especially effectively at the age of 41 years old? There's one last thing that I didn't really want to bring up. I don't want to talk about it, but I mean, you got to throw it in there. And it's Dalton Varsho's arm, man. I knew it was bad, and I know he's so good defensively. And, he had to be, nerfed somehow. Like, they had to have some sort of, vice with Dalton Varsho's game. It is the arm strength. Because, I mean, when Michael Busch hit that sacrifice fly, and there's another single to Varsho after, just the biggest noodle arm, literally, of all time. But it's just a little bit unfortunate. And I knew that it was a thing, but I kind of forgot about it because we haven't really seen Dalton Varsho play and throw the baseball too often recently.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is he makes so many crazy plays, you don't even need to see it that often because he's diving for balls and he's not having to make that throw. But then, yeah, the odd time it happens. It looks like, for those, Carter knows this, I hurt my arm this season. It's been a disaster for me trying to chuck the ball. And I've been playing outfield, infield, whatever. It looks like me in the outfield trying to whip that ball home. It's just not happening.
It looks like Elliot Ramos, where we saw in our group chat today. That was, an interesting clip. I talked about that as well. Just a quick extension. I would love to see, the absolute polar opposite of Bradley Zimmer. Like, maybe somehow, again, if he was going to rake, like, you're going to have him in the lineup all the time. But just for this hypothetical, it'd be so funny to see a guy, absolutely raking every third day or so. So he's not like absolutely, not the raking part, but the defense part is what I'm talking about. The Elliot Ramos defense, just an absolute liability in the outfield, just every third day. So again, it's not hurting the Toronto Blue Jays. It's not a regular that you're seeing every single time be out there. But I just remember how much fun it was watching Bradley Zimmer have at bats, because a lot of the time, like, the Blue Jays were up and it just didn't really matter with his at bat. And it just was so bad. Set the record for the worst batting average in MLB history. It would be really funny, have that, like, Lourdes Gurriel guy. Elliot Ramos is a pretty good example of it. Jason Dominguez, another guy from the New York Yankees, be a pretty good example of that as well. But I think, for me, some of the funniest things that you will see is just professional athletes, MLB players, absolutely just whiffing on fly balls or, spiking ground balls into the dirt. Like, I don't even know what he was trying to do there, but it's absolutely hilarious to see.
Yeah, man, I don't know. The Bradley Zimmer time brings me back. Man, we had a lot of fun watching that guy just sort of I don't want to say out of jokingness or anything, but it was a little bit. And I think
mean, he set the MLB record for the worst batting average ever. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
it
I don't
was
even know where that
bad.
guy is. He might be on Mars somewhere
I
for all I know.
he's probably sent to Japan or something. He might be playing in the Korea League, knowing Bradley. He's probably, having a great time. Shout out to him and his family, because just generational memories that I will have. Be passing down to my kids one day. Talk about the legend of Bradley Zimmer on the
I'm gonna make a big edit of him, so one day when my kids are old enough, I can show them the all-star that was Bradley Zimmer. Oh man,
yeah, just an absolute legend. Like, build the statue. Where is it?
Build the statue.
I wish that this, like, the hypothetical with, like, the bad defensive guy, like, it's just not going to happen. Like, the only way you have that is if Anthony Santander comes back and somebody who's absolutely raking comes into the game. It's like, there's no scenario where, maybe a pitch hitting scenario where, you throw a guy in and he just plays horrific defense, and maybe we're getting robbed of that as Toronto Blue Jays fans. But yeah, I just think it would be really funny to watch, the odd time, not every time, the odd time watching just a Toronto Blue Jay or just somebody, making hilarious plays in the outfield. So but I get enough of that in our men's slow pitch anyway when I see you playing the infield. So.
Okay, I've had a pretty decent season with a bum arm, but I was gonna say I think Winnipeg, Manitoba. That's where we're placing the statue of Bradley Zimmer, right in downtown Portage in Maine.
Right by Dale Hawerchuk. You got the two legends of Winnipeg. You got Bradley Zimmer and then Dale Hawerchuk, just, round things off. You got a pretty, all-around crew, taking care of all the attributes that you definitely want to see in the downtown streets of Winnipeg. But I guess we'll leave it there, and hopefully we will be back with you guys after a series win with the Charlotte Cubs. Braden is going to be leaving you for the rest of the weekend because he's, really cool, and hopefully going to will the Bombers to a win for once, in their life, because I don't know what's going on over there. Obviously, we're from Winnipeg, big CFL guys as well, but it's not necessarily going as well, especially when you're hosting a Grey Cup and you kind of want to, have your home team playing in that Grey Cup in their home stadium. That's besides the point. Just want to say thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, all the support recently has been much appreciated, but with all the new people in, we have realized that 77% of you guys are not subscribed. So if you are coming back, watching the live streams, the reels, the podcast, whatever we do post, again, some exclusive stuff coming out on the weekends as well. Not every single weekend, but once in a while, trying to bring you guys as much content as possible. So if you guys are subscribed, you are way more likely to see those videos. And if you really want to go crazy, you can turn on the bell as well, as we will have the post notifications on. Obviously, having our podcast out every single day at 5 a.m. Eastern time. But, if we do go live, we do have a reel, do have, the odd exclusive episode. We probably will tease it, but just to make sure you don't miss it, have those notifications on. So you definitely won't miss it and won't miss any sort of Blue Jays content coming from us. But Braden, anything else you want to add? Because I guess this kind of is your weekend episode since you won't be joining us tomorrow.
Yeah, it's sort of sad, but you know what? I'll be at the Bombers game. Hopefully Zach Collaros won't look like Ramos out there spiking the football.